unleashed Hollywood news. Sean Diddy Combs was just offered a plea deal that could have changed everything. But there was a catch, and it wasn't small. According to multiple insiders, the deal would have required Diddy to give up names. And at the very top of that list? Jay-Z. Now reports are swirling that Jay-Z is preparing to testify, or worse, that he could be forced to. He's allegedly terrified that his name will be dragged into the spotlight in a way he's avoided for years. This trial isn't just about Diddy anymore. It's pulling back the curtain on an elite circle of power, influence, and deeply buried secrets. The shocking truth is coming out. Diddy might be facing life behind bars, but he's not the only one with everything to lose. If Jay-Z goes down, Beyoncé's empire is on the line too. Sources close to the investigation have confirmed that the government made a serious offer to Diddy. But it wasn't just about admitting guilt, it was about exposing others involved. The feds reportedly wanted Diddy to name names within the alleged criminal network. Jay-Z's name kept surfacing, and it's become clear that Diddy wasn't acting alone. Some reports even claim that Jay-Z was the one who encouraged Diddy to reject the deal. That raises a huge question. How involved is Jay-Z really? Why would he have a say in what Diddy does or doesn't do in federal court? The plea deal, had Diddy accepted it, could have meant a shorter sentence. But instead, he's decided to fight it out in court. Why? Because turning state's witness could have made him a target, and he knows what happens to people labeled as rats behind bars. When Diddy arrived in federal court, he looked around for his family. In earlier hearings, his sons, his sister, and even his mother had shown up in support. But this time, they were nowhere to be seen. No one showed. That silence spoke volumes. During the hearing, prosecutors confirmed they offered him a deal. Diddy made it official, he's not taking it. That means the trial will move forward, and jury selection is already underway. Legal experts are watching closely. This isn't just about what happens in the courtroom, it's about what happens if the wrong juror gets picked. One biased juror could tip the scales either way. Diddy has now brought on 2 additional attorneys to beef up his defense team. He's preparing for war. And he's going to need all the help he can get. If convicted, he could spend the rest of his life behind bars. The charges are severe: sex trafficking, racketeering, coercion. The accusations paint a picture of prolonged abuse, secret parties fueled by drugs, and disturbing control over victims' lives. Prosecutors say these were not isolated events. This was a calculated, criminal operation that went on for years. What makes it even more disturbing is that this isn't the first time Diddy and Jay-Z have been connected to dangerous behavior. Back in 1999, Jay-Z pleaded guilty to third-degree assault for stabbing record executive Lance Rivera. That wasn't just a tabloid rumor. It happened. That same year, Diddy was also caught up in a nightclub shooting. Both men had brushes with the law at the height of their careers. And now, all these years later, they're being connected again. Only this time, the stakes are even higher. Jay-Z has worked hard to rebrand himself as a businessman, an icon, a mogul. But those close to the industry say he still moves the same way he always has, in silence, behind the scenes, using power to crush problems before they ever go public. One accuser who named both Diddy and Jay-Z in a civil lawsuit mysteriously withdrew her case. Insiders say Jay-Z issued private threats. Soon after, Diddy was conveniently released from jail under the excuse of a medical emergency. From that hospital bed, he allegedly made several calls. Within a week, the entire case was dropped. Coincidence? Or a pattern? With Diddy's trial just days away, the industry is holding its breath. The prosecution wants to expose a wider criminal network. And if Diddy flips under pressure, or if the court forces certain names into testimony, the fallout could be massive. Jay-Z's billion-dollar empire is built on reputation, brand partnerships, business ventures, and a carefully crafted image that has kept him insulated from scandal for years. But that wall may be starting to crack. Diddy's trial isn't just putting him on the stand, it's shining a light on some of the darkest corners of the music industry. And as more information leaks out, one name continues to echo through every hallway of the courtroom: Jay-Z. Behind the glitz and Grammy speeches lies a side of hip-hop few dare to expose. What started as isolated rumors is now forming a disturbing pattern. The allegations against Diddy include a ring of sexual abuse, coercion, and trafficking. But prosecutors suspect he wasn't working alone. The feds believe there was an entire operation, and they're convinced Diddy had help from the top. That's where Jay-Z allegedly comes in. Not just as a friend or associate, but as a potential co-conspirator. Insiders say Jay-Z had his fingerprints on more than one part of this enterprise. From providing legal cover to intimidating potential witnesses, his role may be more active than previously imagined. But the real twist? Some investigators believe Jay-Z may flip on Diddy before Diddy flips on him. He's reportedly been meeting with legal advisors behind the scenes, weighing his options and trying to protect everything he's built. That includes Roc Nation, Tidal, and every corporate partnership tied to his billion-dollar brand. In other words, Jay-Z is trying to survive. This isn't just about prison time. It's about legacy. If Diddy falls and brings Jay-Z with him, the consequences could ripple across the entertainment world. Think canceled deals, terminated contracts, dropped artists. The industry is bracing for the possibility that this is just the beginning. And Beyoncé? She's already starting to distance herself. Observers have noticed she's been unusually quiet. No public support. No statements. Just silence. That's not a coincidence. Her brand is one of the most carefully managed in the world. If there's even a whiff of scandal threatening to tarnish her image, the Carter camp knows to retreat fast. But the connections are hard to ignore. Jay-Z and Diddy weren't just casual friends. They moved as a unit. The two have been tied together in business, real estate, and private dealings for decades. Their empires are tangled, and if one goes down, the other may be forced to follow. Behind the scenes, there's talk that several industry insiders are preparing to come forward. Whistleblowers, victims, former employees. Many stayed silent for years, fearing retaliation. But now, with federal protection and public outrage rising, they're finding the courage to speak. And what they're saying is chilling. Accounts describe lavish parties that turned into nightmarish events. Attendees weren't just celebrities, they included underage individuals, international guests, and people who had no idea what they were walking into. There are mentions of blackout zones, where phones were confiscated and security was told to look the other way. According to a former bodyguard, Diddy and Jay-Z would fly out select individuals using fake names and burner phones. Once inside the circle, these individuals were allegedly drugged, coerced, and abused. And when they tried to leave, they were threatened, not just with violence but with financial ruin. The web runs deep, and it's all starting to unravel. Legal experts say the plea deal Diddy rejected is extremely telling. Prosecutors don't offer deals like that unless they already have serious leverage. If they're offering Diddy a way out, with the condition that he turns on his co-conspirators, it means they're already closing in on the rest of the network. And Diddy's refusal? That might have been about pride, but it also might have been fear. Fear of what happens in prison if you're labeled a snitch. Fear of what happens to your family if you betray powerful people. Fear of losing the last ounce of control in a situation that's already spiraling. But the government isn't backing down. They've made it clear, this case is a priority. And they're treating it like a takedown of organized crime. That means wiretaps, sealed indictments, and secret grand jury proceedings. And guess what? Jay-Z's name is allegedly on one of those sealed files. What happens next could rewrite the history of hip-hop. For decades, fans have celebrated Diddy and Jay-Z as icons, as trailblazers, as visionaries. But now, that narrative is being challenged, and what's coming to light may destroy their reputations forever. As the trial date creeps closer, federal prosecutors are building what many insiders are calling a blockbuster case. And one thing is crystal clear. Diddy is no longer the only target. Jay-Z's name keeps surfacing, not only in allegations but in documents. Court insiders reveal that sealed filings submitted to the judge include testimony and digital evidence connecting Jay-Z to Diddy's alleged trafficking enterprise. We're talking emails, texts, flight logs, surveillance footage, and even NDAs signed under extreme duress. One of the most damning details? A private island in the Caribbean reportedly leased by a shell company traced back to both men. The island, allegedly the site of multiple, exclusive retreats, is now under investigation as a potential crime scene. Former guests have come forward anonymously, describing it as a no-rules zone. They were flown in on private jets. Their phones were taken. Security was airtight. And the things that happened there? Unspeakable. Sources say a few of those witnesses are now in protective custody. Their testimony may be the key to taking this case from shocking to seismic. One of those individuals reportedly described seeing both Diddy and Jay-Z at multiple parties, participating in, or at the very least knowingly overseeing, disturbing acts. Another described hearing them discuss cleanup protocols, which allegedly involved non-disclosure agreements, hush payments, and in some cases, threats. This is no longer just about bad behavior. It's potentially criminal coordination on a scale that rivals some of the most notorious scandals in entertainment history. And the timeline? That's what's truly haunting. The trail stretches back over 2 decades. From New York to Miami, from Los Angeles to London, The operations reportedly shifted locations often, with new players brought in as old ones either disappeared from the public eye or suffered mental breakdowns. Former assistants and tour staff have confirmed suspicious injuries, sudden firings, and long-term therapy or rehab stints that were quietly paid for through corporate expense accounts. Diddy and Jay-Z allegedly created an inner circle, one bound not by loyalty but by fear. Their circle of enablers included high-profile attorneys, PR consultants, even medical professionals. Some helped cover up incidents. Others coached victims on what not to say. Even worse, some of these victims were allegedly minors when they were first approached. Prosecutors are now digging into age verification documents for past concert events and casting calls run by affiliates of both moguls. If underage trafficking charges get added to the indictment, we're talking life sentences, not just for Diddy but possibly for others involved. This explains why the plea deal was so controversial. Behind closed doors, federal agents offered Diddy a reduced sentence if he turned state's witness. In other words, name names. Give them Jay-Z, hand over evidence. Confirm what investigators already suspect. But Diddy said no. And some say that was out of misplaced loyalty. Others say it's because Diddy knows the moment he snitches, he becomes a walking target. Not just inside prison, but outside too. These are billionaires with everything to lose. And if there's one thing more dangerous than a guilty man, it's a guilty man with powerful enemies. Jay-Z, meanwhile, is scrambling. His legal team has reportedly made quiet overtures to the Department of Justice, not to deny everything but to negotiate. There's speculation that Jay-Z might preemptively cooperate, handing over Diddy-related material to save himself and deflect attention from his own actions. It's a classic move: sacrifice your partner to save your empire. But it may be too late. One leak from the case files revealed a chilling voice memo from a private conversation allegedly between Jay-Z and a former Roc Nation exec. In it, the speaker, sounding exactly like Jay-Z, warns, "If he talks, it's not just us. It's the whole machine. I need you to handle this quietly." Federal agents reportedly have that recording. If authenticated, it could be the smoking gun, direct evidence of witness intimidation and conspiracy to obstruct justice. That alone could bring charges regardless of what Diddy does next. And yet, Jay-Z is still walking free. For now. But the walls are closing in. His public appearances have dropped. Beyoncé, usually a PR master, has gone radio silent. Roc Nation has canceled multiple events without explanation. And industry insiders whisper that several top-tier artists are seeking legal advice on how to exit their contracts. Even investors are getting nervous. One major partner in Jay-Z's liquor brand recently pulled out of a deal. Tech companies affiliated with Tidal are scrubbing references. The dominoes are starting to fall. And the fans? They're torn. Some can't believe the accusations. Others say it's been an open secret for years, and that the industry is finally being forced to clean house. Either way, one thing is certain. This case is bigger than anyone expected. It's not just about music anymore. It's about corruption, silence, money, and power. The very institutions that built Jay-Z and Diddy may be complicit in shielding them. And now the truth is leaking out. One headline, one court filing, one whispered testimony at a time. The courtroom is now set to become the epicenter of a cultural earthquake. With the plea deal officially off the table, Diddy is heading to trial, and legal analysts agree, this isn't just a trial against one man. It's a war against a system that's protected celebrities for decades. And Jay-Z's name will come up, over and over. The federal prosecutors are treating this case like a RICO investigation, the same framework used to dismantle mafia families. That means they're not just targeting Diddy for isolated crimes. They're alleging that he led a criminal enterprise, one with hierarchy, coordination, and years of systematic abuse. In court, prosecutors plan to show the jury a carefully constructed timeline of events: parties, properties, text messages, flights, bank transfers. But the real headline? They're bringing in key witnesses who claim Jay-Z was a co-conspirator. One witness, a former bodyguard for both moguls, is expected to testify that he personally saw Jay-Z give instructions to clear the house after certain events. Another witness, a former Roc Nation executive assistant, is allegedly prepared to testify under oath that Jay-Z not only knew about Diddy's freak-off parties but helped fund them. Even more explosive, there's a third witness whose identity is being kept under wraps by the government. Rumors suggest it could be a former artist who worked closely with both men and disappeared from the spotlight years ago. Legal experts are calling this mystery witness the nuclear option, someone who could turn public opinion instantly. Diddy's defense team knows what they're up against. That's why, just days before the trial, he brought on 2 new high-powered criminal defense attorneys. These aren't just any lawyers, they're courtroom brawlers with a history of high-profile wins in federal court. One of them previously defended Fortune 500 executives in white-collar crime cases. The other? A former prosecutor who switched sides and now dismantles the government's arguments line by line. Their strategy is becoming clear. Diddy will paint himself as a scapegoat. His team will argue that while yes, parties happened, and maybe mistakes were made, he's not a trafficker. He's a celebrity, not a criminal mastermind. And more importantly, they'll subtly suggest that others should be on trial too. Expect them to raise questions about Jay-Z without outright accusing him. It's a tactic designed to sow doubt, to make jurors ask, if Diddy's guilty, what about Jay-Z? It shifts the focus just enough to create confusion, and confusion equals reasonable doubt. Meanwhile, the prosecution isn't backing down. They're reportedly prepared to show photos, surveillance footage, and even hotel security logs linking Jay-Z to specific events under scrutiny. They've issued subpoenas to private jet companies and financial firms. Bank statements will be shown. Off-the-books transactions, LLCs, and offshore accounts. It's all part of their evidence. But the biggest blow may come from the digital forensics team. FBI cyber experts have reportedly retrieved deleted text messages and encrypted chats from devices seized during Diddy's arrest. Some of these messages allegedly include conversations with Jay-Z about cleaning up messes, coordinating private travel, and discussions involving payouts. And if authenticated, those messages could implicate Jay-Z directly in witness tampering or obstruction of justice, which is a crime, even without involvement in trafficking itself. On the sidelines, Beyoncé's silence is beginning to make waves. Publicly, she hasn't said a word. But privately, insiders claim she's furious about the potential blowback. Her entire brand, polished, empowering, calculated, is at risk. If Jay-Z falls, the empire they built together could start to crumble. Endorsement deals, touring rights, streaming platforms, fashion lines. Everything is built on an image of success and sophistication. And once that image cracks, investors flee. And here's where things get even messier. Some reports suggest that Beyoncé is considering legal separation if the case deepens. Not because she's leaving her husband, but because it could shield her assets from government seizure. That's right. If the Department of Justice determines that any of Jay-Z's income was tied to the alleged criminal enterprise, and Beyoncé benefited from that income, her holdings could be subject to forfeiture. That includes business ventures, real estate, and even intellectual property. This isn't just about music. It's about money laundering, racketeering, and criminal conspiracy. And that's why this trial will be historic. We're looking at a case where the US government is effectively saying, enough is enough. The culture of silence, the intimidation, the enablers, the hush money, it all ends here. Legal analysts say jury selection will be crucial. Finding 12 unbiased jurors in a country where Diddy and Jay-Z are household names will be nearly impossible. But if the prosecutors can seat a panel that's willing to follow the evidence, no matter how famous the defendants are, we could be looking at convictions that change the entertainment industry forever. The timeline? The trial is expected to last anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks, depending on the number of witnesses and how many motions the defense files to block certain evidence. Already, there's talk of cameras being banned from the courtroom, likely to prevent a media frenzy. But transcripts will be released, and every word will be dissected online. And remember, this isn't just a criminal trial. It's also triggering a wave of civil suits. Victims emboldened by the federal case are now filing lawsuits of their own. Some against Diddy, some against Jay-Z, some against affiliated companies, record labels, and management firms. One woman is suing for $40 million. Another, a former backup dancer, claims she was trafficked while on tour and is seeking damages for years of psychological trauma. These civil cases won't just expose new details, they could also bankrupt the institutions that once protected these men. Insurance companies are panicking. PR firms are distancing themselves. The industry is on edge. The court proceedings are only one half of this massive story. The other half is unfolding in real time across social media, news outlets, podcasts, and Hollywood itself. The entire entertainment industry is bracing for what could be the most disruptive scandal of the decade. Within minutes of Diddy rejecting the plea deal, hashtag Jay-Z exposed and hashtag Diddy trial started trending worldwide on X, formerly Twitter. The public is split. Some are calling this the final reckoning for celebrity abusers. Others are defending Diddy and Jay-Z, arguing that the feds are waging a targeted witch hunt to tear down black moguls. But no matter which side you're on, one thing is clear. This trial is dominating the conversation. Even celebrities are starting to weigh in, cautiously. Several A-listers have begun unfollowing Diddy on Instagram. Jay-Z's inner circle is reportedly on lockdown, with Roc Nation issuing a strict no-comment policy to all clients and associates. Sources say internal memos have gone out, warning talent not to speak on the case under any circumstance. But some, like 50 Cent, are not holding back. 50, never one to miss a moment to take a jab at his rivals, posted a cryptic meme showing a courtroom sketch of Jay-Z wearing a wire, with the caption, "You thought it was a game?" The post went viral in under an hour. While it's clearly satire, it stirred the pot and forced major media outlets to confront the unspoken question. Is Jay-Z cooperating with the feds? TMZ, Page 6, and even the New York Times have started covering the possibility that Jay-Z could be subpoenaed, not just as a witness, but potentially as a co-defendant if more evidence comes to light. There's even speculation that prosecutors might delay the trial to secure more testimony or bring additional indictments. Meanwhile, think pieces and op-eds are flooding the internet. Journalists are dissecting Jay-Z and Diddy's long friendship, business partnerships, and the dark history of hip-hop's elite. Long-forgotten accusations from the early 2000s are being resurfaced, with former insiders breaking their silence on what they allegedly saw behind closed doors. The narrative is shifting. As the clock ticks closer to the start of Diddy's trial, federal prosecutors are going full throttle. Witnesses are being prepped, evidence is being cataloged, and insiders say some of the materials to be presented in court will shock the public, not just because of their content but because of who is involved. Sources familiar with the prosecution strategy say they've obtained audio recordings, and not just from Diddy. Reportedly, there are intercepted calls, voice notes, and even old studio footage that tie together Diddy, Jay-Z, and a handful of other high-profile figures in ways no one saw coming. According to a leak from someone close to the case, one recording allegedly features a heated conversation between Diddy and another music executive about silencing a woman threatening to go public. Another reportedly includes Diddy bragging about being untouchable because of his friends in high places, which some prosecutors believe is a reference to Jay-Z and other industry power players. If those tapes are admitted as evidence, and if they contain even a hint of criminal conspiracy, the courtroom could erupt. Meanwhile, witness protection requests have spiked. Several key figures who are set to testify have demanded anonymity or extra security, claiming they've received threats. Federal marshals are said to be monitoring at least 3 witnesses who were previously part of Diddy's close inner circle, including a former assistant, a tour organizer, and a private security contractor. And here's the part that's making Jay-Z very nervous. One of those witnesses allegedly worked for him too. That's right. A former Roc Nation staffer is reportedly cooperating with federal authorities. Insiders say this witness had access to not just the social side of Diddy and Jay-Z's relationship, but also their business dealings, travel records, and backstage routines during major tours. If that witness takes the stand and corroborates any involvement by Jay-Z in a trafficking conspiracy, it could blow open an entirely new case. Prosecutors haven't charged Jay-Z with anything yet, but every day that passes, his legal team is scrambling to keep him out of the crosshairs. There are even whispers that a second grand jury has been impaneled. This one focused on potential financial crimes tied to shell companies, suspicious donations, and offshore accounts allegedly connected to Diddy's network. And guess whose name appears in some of those transactions? Jay-Z's. It's no wonder his camp is reportedly in crisis mode. Behind closed doors, sources say Jay-Z's attorneys have advised him to prepare for all scenarios, including a subpoena, a testimony order, or, in the worst case, a criminal indictment. And in the midst of it all, Beyoncé remains quiet. But that silence might not last forever. According to a former PR consultant who once worked with the Carters, there are contingency plans for every type of scandal, ranging from mild rumors to full-blown legal threats. These plans reportedly include carefully timed interviews, strategic charity events, and if necessary, a temporary separation to protect Beyoncé's image. Yes, you heard that right, a temporary separation. Though purely strategic and not necessarily emotional, it would allow Beyoncé to publicly distance herself from Jay-Z while legal proceedings unfold. The move would protect her brand, her music empire, and her fan base, all while giving her plausible deniability in the court of public opinion. Industry insiders say she's already started making subtle moves. She's quietly changed her tour team, declined joint appearances with Jay-Z, and pulled back on business ventures tied to Roc Nation. Some fans noticed that in her latest social media posts, Jay-Z is noticeably absent. Not a tag. Not a mention. Nothing. And then there's the music itself. People are analyzing recent lyrics, hunting for clues. Did Beyoncé already know something was coming? Is her new material trying to tell us something? One line from her latest single raised eyebrows. Build an empire just to watch it burn. Some say it's just artistic expression. Others aren't so sure. Meanwhile, public support for Diddy is eroding fast. Major radio stations have begun pulling his tracks from rotation. A handful of music festivals have removed him from their lineups, just in case. Corporate sponsors are severing ties. And TV networks are editing out his past appearances from reruns and streaming libraries. Even Bad Boy Records, the label he founded, is facing serious backlash. There are rumors that former artists under the label are in talks with their own legal teams, considering lawsuits for damages, royalties, and even emotional trauma caused by the culture Diddy created. This isn't just a legal scandal, it's a cultural reckoning. And Jay-Z, whether he's guilty or not, is right in the eye of the storm. If prosecutors can prove that Diddy operated a criminal enterprise and that Jay-Z knowingly supported or enabled it, whether through silence, money, or influence, the fallout will be catastrophic. And we haven't even reached the first day of trial. Media outlets are preparing for wall-to-wall coverage. True crime podcasts are already booking guests. Newsrooms have assigned dedicated legal analysts. Streaming platforms are rushing to produce last-minute documentaries. There's a bidding war for exclusive rights to cover the trial from inside the courtroom. And remember, this is only the beginning. Once trial begins, the public will hear things we've never heard before. Victim testimonies, secret recordings, emails, text messages, and more. The full scope of the allegations will be laid bare, and so will the names of those involved. If Jay-Z's name comes up during witness testimony, or worse if he's called to the stand, it'll dominate headlines around the world. The ripple effects on his businesses, brand partnerships, and legacy will be immediate and severe. It's a moment of truth. Diddy made his move. He rejected the plea deal. He chose to go to trial. And in doing so, he may have dragged the entire industry with him, including one of the biggest names in music history. The bigger picture, hip-hop, power, and the industry's silent code. As the curtains are slowly drawn back on Diddy's legal entanglements, a bigger picture begins to emerge. One that transcends the courtroom and begins to tug at the very fabric of hip-hop's power structure. We're not just looking at one man's potential downfall. We're examining a system, one that has long operated in the shadows, guided by loyalty, silence, and unspoken codes. For decades, figures like Sean Diddy Combs have not only shaped the sound of music but also influenced its culture, economy, and politics. Diddy didn't just sell records. He created empires, built fashion lines, launched TV networks, and cemented his image as an untouchable mogul. That aura of invincibility is what made him so iconic, and what makes this unraveling so seismic. As legal proceedings continue, the ripple effects are extending far beyond Diddy's own circle. People in the music industry are starting to question the culture that allowed potential abuses to go unchecked for so long. There's a growing sense that the days of looking the other way may be over, even if some continue to cling to the old rules. What's perhaps most chilling is the number of people who now admit, albeit anonymously, that everybody knew something. That phrase has come up in whispers surrounding Hollywood, in the wake of the Weinstein scandal. And now it's starting to echo through the halls of hip-hop. And here's where Jay-Z enters the conversation again, not as a direct suspect, but as someone whose silence or involvement, however peripheral, could become increasingly scrutinized. As former allies fall under the microscope, public curiosity grows. How much did he know? And why hasn't he said anything? Insiders close to both men describe their relationship as one of mutual respect, strategic cooperation, and sometimes calculated distance. They weren't best friends, but they knew their combined influence mattered. Jay-Z's decision to publicly stay out of the unfolding chaos may be a calculated move, or a reflection of deeper unease. And while there is no public evidence implicating Jay-Z in any of Diddy's alleged crimes, his long-standing connections to him raise inevitable questions. Especially considering the reports swirling around Diddy's plea negotiations. Who else might be named if a deal is struck? Who else might the authorities be looking at? Even if Jay-Z is never formally tied to any wrongdoing, the Diddy scandal could still leave a lasting mark. People are watching now. They're reevaluating relationships, rereading old headlines, revisiting past rumors, and digging into long-forgotten legal filings. In a post-Me Too era, silence no longer feels safe, it feels suspicious. For Diddy, the consequences are already playing out. His brand is in free fall. Endorsements are vanishing. collaborations are collapsing. And while some in the industry continue to show support behind closed doors, others are scrambling to put distance between themselves and his imploding empire. But make no mistake, this isn't just about Diddy. This is about an industry that has, for too long, protected its stars at all costs. An industry where power can shield, silence can buy time, and justice often arrives too late. The question now is whether this moment will become a turning point, or just another scandal swept under the red carpet. Because as more details emerge and as names continue to swirl in the public sphere, fans and insiders alike are left wondering. If the music industry's walls could talk, what would they reveal? And more importantly, who's next? Stay tuned as we continue to unravel the truth, piece by piece, here on Unleashed Hollywood News.